So I'm making kimchi. This is my second batch. I made this with a fine, Elvis is very interested, like I grated everything pretty fine for this, and I'm using red cabbage instead of Napa cabbage because red cabbage is a far better cancer fighter. And I don't know if you know anybody with cancer, but if you do, there's a book called Foods That Fight Cancer by Richard Beliveau, PhD, and Dennis Gingras, PhD. In it basically reads like a magazine. So there's a lot of graphs and a lot of visual aids. Anyway, it's easy to read, and he shows that red cabbage fights cancer far better than green cabbage. So it's like if you have 5% cell growth, cancer cell growth with red cabbage, when you're with that extract, then I think it was something like 75% with green cabbage. And tomatoes aren't even as good as that, which James likes a lot of tomatoes. So I try to squeeze in as much really heavy-duty cancer fighters as I can into his diet, because if it was just left to him, he would be eating mostly tomatoes and not a whole lot of other vegetables or fruit. Well, I guess tomatoes are fruit. Anyway, so yeah, the red cabbage is not quite as good as kale, but I'm going to try this with kale at some point too, probably. But anyway, so this one I did a coarser cut. I don't know if you can see it. I wanted to be able to see the like the shapes of the radish and stuff like that, right? And the recipe, it's not from this book. I'm just using this book to weigh the jars down. The recipe that I used, I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, it's the same book that I used for that cocoa Brazil nut feta cheese. Anyway, it doesn't require kneading. You just let the cabbage sit there in the brine and it does its thing. So, and then you rinse it really well and whatever. So that is far preferable to me, because every time I do anything in the kitchen that takes any amount of time, I have to take the chair in and sit in there, and it's just a big deal. So anyway, this recipe, he said to put it in a tub, and I was like, well, I could stick in a casserole, the jars, I don't know, but I didn't really know where to put them. So for now, I have put them in my bathtub, and I can see why he said to put them in a tub, because the juice is coming out. I guess it must be starting to ferment or something, and it's... Anyway, so there's some juice coming out of the jar, and or jars. So it would be messy if you just like left them on the counter. So anyway, this is my kimchi. First attempt.